In 1043, a queen's honor was worth less than political convenience, and justice meant walking barefoot across 9 red-hot plowshares. What would you do if your stepson accused you of adultery and treason, demanding you prove your innocence through trial by fire? This is the harrowing true story of Queen Emma of Normandy, whose faith, courage, and determination would either vindicate her name or consume her flesh. Prepare yourself for a medieval tale that exposes the brutal intersection of power, religion, and a woman's fight for survival in the darkest corners of history. Queen Emma of Normandy had survived more political storms than most rulers ever face. Twice widowed, twice a queen, first to Thellard the Unready, then to Canute the Great, she had navigated the treacherous waters of 11th century English politics with remarkable skill. But in 1043, her greatest challenge would come not from foreign invaders or rival nobles, but from her own stepson. Edward the Confessor had finally claimed his throne after years of exile, and his resentment toward Emma burned like forge fire. She had supported his half-brother Harthacnut's claim to the crown, sidelining Edward for years. Now, with power finally in his grasp, Edward saw his opportunity for revenge wrapped in the convenient cloak of justice. The accusation struck like lightning. Emma had committed adultery with Alwyn, Bishop of Winchester, and together they had plotted treason against the crown. In medieval England, such charges weren't merely scandalous, they were death sentences. Adultery by a queen was considered treason, punishable by death, while plotting against the king meant execution for all involved. But Edward wasn't simply seeking her death. He was orchestrating her complete destruction. He confiscated her vast wealth, stripped her of lands, and left her virtually powerless. Emma found herself trapped in a nightmare where her own family had become her executioner. Yet Emma possessed something her accusers hadn't counted on: unshakable faith and iron resolve. Rather than flee or beg for mercy, she chose the most dangerous path available: trial by ordeal. She would submit to God's judgment through the ancient ritual of walking barefoot across 9 red-hot plowshares. If she was innocent, divine intervention would protect her. If guilty, the searing metal would expose her sins through her tortured flesh. The day of the ordeal arrived with all the pageantry of a royal execution. Winchester Cathedral, filled with nobles, clergy, and commoners, all eager to witness either a miracle or a gruesome spectacle. The plowshares glowed cherry red in the cathedral's dim light, arranged in a perfect line, like stepping stones across hell itself. Emma approached in simple white robes, her bare feet pale against the cold stone floor. The heat radiating from the metal could be felt yards away. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as she knelt in prayer, her lips moving silently, while the iron seemed to pulse with malevolent life. Then, without hesitation, she stood and placed her first foot upon the burning metal. What happened next defied every expectation. Emma walked deliberately across all 9 plowshares, her face serene, showing no sign of pain or injury. When she reached the end, she turned to face the stunned assembly. Her feet bore no burns, no blisters, no mark of the ordeal she had just endured. The cathedral erupted. Some fell to their knees in religious ecstasy. Others whispered of witchcraft, but none could deny what they had witnessed. Divine judgment had spoken with unmistakable clarity. Queen Emma was innocent. Edward found himself in an impossible position. God himself had vindicated the woman he had accused. The king was forced to restore Emma's lands, return her wealth, and publicly acknowledge her innocence. Bishop Alwyn, equally vindicated, retained his position and dignity. But Emma's triumph carried a deeper victory. She had not merely proven her innocence. She had demonstrated that even in a world where women held little formal power, courage and faith could triumph over political machination and masculine authority. Emma's ordeal reveals a profound truth about medieval justice and human nature. Sometimes the most extraordinary courage emerges when ordinary options disappear. Her willingness to risk everything on divine justice wasn't just about proving innocence. It was about refusing to let powerful men destroy her without consequence. Her story reminds us that throughout history, when legal systems failed and political corruption ran rampant, individuals found ways to appeal to higher authorities, whether divine, moral, or simply the court of public opinion. Emma's barefoot walk across burning iron became her declaration that some truths transcend human manipulation. In our modern world, we may not face trials by fire, but we still encounter situations where standing for truth requires walking through flames of a different sort. Emma's courage echoes across centuries, challenging us to ask, when faced with impossible odds and powerful accusers, would we have the strength to take that first step onto burning metal? Emma's story is just one thread in the vast tapestry of medieval intrigue, where survival often demanded impossible courage, and faith could literally be a matter of life and death. If these tales of power, betrayal, and extraordinary human resilience fascinate you, there are countless more waiting in history's shadows. Stories of queens who defied kings, peasants who toppled empires, and ordinary people who performed extraordinary acts when darkness seemed absolute. Subscribe to uncover more forgotten tales where courage met impossible odds, and discover why the past's darkest moments often reveal humanity's brightest flames.